Well, hey there. Happy Monday. It's Monday, May 10th. And it's time for another Monday Mastery live at 5. And we'll just kind of hang out here and chit chat for a few minutes while folks are catching up and tuning in. And it's an okay day here. The sun is finally coming out, and I'm in Kansas City. Or the Kansas City metro area, I should say. Hey, Teresa, thanks for joining in. And but it's only in the I think it's up to low 60s, 62, 63. So it's okay. This weekend I had a great weekend helping a friend with her house or her parents' house, and we had almost I think it was almost 82, 83 degrees, and that was so nice. And now we're back to 50s and 60s again. Hey, Flory, thanks for joining in. So I don't know about you all, and wherever you are, wherever you all are at, I hope your weather is a little more consistent, a little less chilly than our weather. So anyway, it's hey Jerry, thanks for tuning in. Jerry says Jerry's in Florida, and she says, what is it, 79 there? So yeah, nice to be there right now. And so it's springtime. This time of year can be crazy. Fortunately, we haven't had any major storms and no major storm damage, but time to warm up. So anyway, next week I will be back in Upper Michigan, Northern Wisconsin. And I should be there for about 3 weeks. Teresa says it's 79 there as well. Awesome. You guys are lucky. So anyway, today I wanted to talk about our attitudes. And I know a lot of you have really good attitudes, but I know some of you are struggling. And it became even more relevant today with a couple of comments I received on a couple of different posts, and one of the things that I think we need to pay attention to is our attitude. And I can beat this subject to death, but it is so necessary for us to keep in mind that our attitude really determines how far we go. It determines what we attract in a relationship. I had one woman and she's made it, and I've discerned this through a couple of comments that she's made over the past couple of weeks, that there seems to be a lot of anger there, and a lot of hurt, carrying a lot of baggage with her. And that's the type of thing that whether you realize it or not, it gives off an aura, and it's an attitude that walks into the room before you do. And people sense this even before you open your mouth, because if you're walking in with or showing up with a chip on your shoulder or some negativity, it shows on your face. And when there's barely a smile, or you can barely crack a smile, that shows, and people sense it. They may not know what's going on, they may not know why, but it shows, and it reflects in what you attract, or the type of people that you attract. And these are the same people habitually that complain about there never being a good man out there, or never being a good woman, and are all the good, or I should say, start that over, are it's going to be a Monday. It's all the good ones are taken. Well, you and I, you all know that that's not true, because you all are great people. You all are great. They've got several women here. I don't know if we've got any guys in the audience yet tonight. Hopefully we do. Hopefully Lindsay's going to show up a little bit later, and maybe Mike and a couple of other guys in there. But anyway, the whole idea is that we have to check our attitude, and sometimes if we find that we've got that negative attitude, hey Mike, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. If we've got that, and we have to pay attention to this, and hey Barbara, thanks for joining in. Glad to see you're here. When you feel that there's something wrong, or you're angry about something, you have to step back and ask why. Hey Susan, thanks for joining in. Glad you joined us tonight. And you figure out where that anger, that negativity is coming from. And if it's coming from a past relationship where you've been, especially if you've been verbally abused or beaten down emotionally, that can have devastating impact on you going forward, and you have to work through that. And sometimes it takes professional counseling or professional therapy to help you recognize that you're not the person that they kept telling you were. You narcissists are great for doing that. They're great at beating you down and making them look like they're the only ones that will want you. Nobody else will. And it's a constant berating and a constant negativity. And we absorb that. I absorbed that for 52 years from my dad. And it's one of those things that it really sticks with you. And it took me, it took me 52 years to break free of that thought process. And it can happen in an instant. It's just, you can work on it, and like I did, I worked on it for years, and I was studying, self-improvement and relationship improvement. And it wasn't until I was re-listening to some material and a combination of re-listening to some material and a conversation with my best friend. And then just all of a sudden, it clicked. Okay, I'm not stupid. I'm not an idiot. And it's been 12 years, or almost 12 years in July, that conversation or that realization happened. And so you can be working on it for a while, and nothing seems to click, nothing seems to be working, and then all of a sudden, in a moment, you recognize that you're not what they said you are. Let's see, let's get a couple of comments. Teresa says, that is so true. You have to overcome a lot that was spoken into you. Absolutely. And for me, you aren't smart, pretty. You aren't smart, pretty, too fat. You need makeup on. You speak too country. I love that one. You are good enough, or I'm assuming that's supposed to be aren't good enough. And those are all common things. Those are all common things. Those are so many of those things are very similar to what I heard, Teresa, and it is very difficult to overcome. And so, but we have to change the voices in our head. When we continually hear that type of word spoken into us, we have to change that voice in our head. And that's what happened for me. For the first 52 years of my life, I heard my father's voice in my head. And it wasn't until I replaced my father's voice with my best friend's voice saying, "Yeah, you're a great guy. You're my best friend. You're just and all the things that we had in that conversation." And until you can replace that voice, and there are some techniques of being able to do that, and it's through what's called neurolinguistic programming, or NLP. It's been around since the early 70s, I think. And Teresa says that was all said by my ex. Yeah, absolutely. That they can be those can be so toxic. And Susan says, you cannot expect someone to love you if you don't love yourself. Well, that's true, Susan. And a lot of times, though, it starts in our childhood home where we're beaten down, and then the people that we choose are similar to our parents, whether it be your father, or in my case, my mother. I married someone like my mother, very, very meek, emotionally, and in a lot of other characteristics. They say we marry our parents the first time, hopefully. The second time, let's do things a little differently. But until you and Susan, you're absolutely right. You have to get to a point that when you start picking yourself up and start brushing yourself off, you start recognizing that you have value. You start recognizing that you are a wonderful person, that you are a wonderful mate, you are a great potential partner. But a lot of times that has to come with changing the voice that we hear in our head. Whose voice do you hear? I used to hear my dad's. Now I hear my best friend, and a number of others that are positive voices. And I hear what they speak into me, and how they speak positive things to me. So when we start pushing away that negative and start allowing the positive stuff to flow in, it's much easier to believe that we have the ability to have that extraordinary relationship. There was another comment that was made a little later today. I was out driving this afternoon, and on my way home, I was checking messages, or checking Facebook, and there was a comment on one of my posts that said, the big mistake is believing that someone would want an old woman with young children. And it just struck me as such a defeatist attitude. And I hope none of you are feeling that way. But if you are, reach out to me and let's work on that and help you move forward. And my response to her was just a quick question. What if the big mistake was believing that you're undesirable because you have children? That's... you just turn those thoughts around, and it can make a huge difference in how you approach dating, in how you approach life. And Teresa says, you can love yourself, but the hurt others put on you takes a toll, and so you are told it so much you wonder if it's true. But counseling and healing from God does happen. But I do catch myself thinking, I am that at times. Then I pray and seek God. Well, Teresa, you and I have had several text conversations over the last, couple of years, and you are a good woman. And I'll tell you that just straight up front. From our conversations, I know you're a great woman, and it is so hard if you've heard those negative comments and negative stories for so long. It is difficult to get past. but you have to recognize that you can't. Well, you shouldn't let others' opinions of you impact you. You shouldn't let those things stick. And part of it is developing a thicker skin and recognizing that, okay, for years they told me this. I know that's not true. I know that's a lie. And part of it is again, it's changing that voice. And Teresa, I'm assuming we're talking about your ex-husband, and you start adjusting when you hear his voice in your head, start changing that voice. Start making it higher, a higher pitch, squeaky, something that you cannot take seriously. And Teresa says, I am none of those things, and I have overcome it all. Thank you so much. Right back at you. You are a great man. Thank you. Thank you. So, those are, and in overcoming that, we have to first of all, we have to recognize we have the attitude. We have to recognize that we've been beaten down. And a lot of times we get back into the dating world and without working on us at all or ourselves, and it becomes difficult to date successfully because we have this chip on our shoulder. We think the world owes us something. There's if you catch yourself talking about your ex or a past relationship, and the conversation never seems to move past that, that's going to be a huge red flag for whoever you're dating. That's going to be a huge roadblock for you moving forward. And it's a matter of recognizing that, and that's a huge part, is recognizing it. And if one of my favorite quotes comes from Henry Ford, and he says, "If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." If you think you can have that extraordinary relationship or you think you can't, you're absolutely correct. And that is something that it takes that takes a lot of thought, and it does take time. I've shared the story several times that one of the reasons that I spent the last 7 or 8 or 10 years in my marriage walking on eggshells was because my ex said she didn't like my sense of humor. And while my sense of humor can be a little sarcastic, it's hard to start watching everything you say for fear of offending someone. And when we're in a relationship, we all tend to morph to try to adjust to this relationship, to make the marriage work, to make the relationship work. And sometimes we lose a big chunk of ourselves. And so it's important to step back and start peel the layers back and find yourself. And Susan says, Ricky, you've been the most positive force in my overcoming these obstacles. You're speaking of. Your book was instrumental. Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm glad it's been helpful for you. And there's a great testimony right there that when you start looking at the entire picture, dating is not just calling somebody and saying, hey, let's go out for dinner, or let's go out for drinks, let's go out for coffee, let's go to a movie. It's about making yourself healthy first. It's about understanding who you are and what you need in a relationship. It's understanding all the moving parts. There are a lot of moving parts to a relationship, and it takes time to make sure all the moving parts fit together. It's like this intricate pocket watch with all the gears, and they all fit together, and they all move at a certain pace, but in the end they come together to tell great time. And it's you miss adjust any one of these gears or the spring, it 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 just destroys the ability of the watch to keep time. The same thing happens with relationships. Or trying to find that extraordinary relationship. You have to be crystal clear about what you want. You have to have the attitude that you can have everything that you want. And that's, the comments that I read today online. It just showed that these two women were just struggling with their ability to date and to have everything that they want. Nobody's situation is ideal. We all have things in our lives that are not going to be attractive to a majority of who we might want to date, and that's okay. We're not looking for extraordinary relation. We're not looking for just an average relationship. We're looking for extraordinary, or at least you should be. Addie says, and thanks for joining in, Addie. Glad you're here. Addie says, I just got back from a girls' vacation with my married friends. It was interesting how a few of them were so negative towards the idea of me waiting and finding an extraordinary relationship. They said there's no such thing. I refuse to listen. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Listen to the negativity of them. Then they said, as long as I'm happy waiting, they will understand. Well, and I'm sorry, I got another comment here. Addie, that's awesome. And I'm so glad you've taken that attitude of not listening to the negativity. And one of the things that and this is a great learning moment, is that you're not here to find a relationship that everybody else will be happy with. You're here to find that relationship that's going to make you happy. It's the one that's going to satisfy you. And I would bet you dollars to donuts, Addie, that if you really talk to the negative women one-on-one, they're not happy with their marriage, and because the odds are that they're one of the 85 plus or minus percent that have settled in a marriage. Things may be okay, things may be good, but they're not great. They're not extraordinary. And when you've gone through divorce, if any of them, and I'm just going to assume that none of them have gone through a divorce. Maybe they have, but they don't understand. And until they get back out into the dating world, they don't know how difficult it is, and how much of a struggle it can be, and and how frustrating it can be. Because again, if you're waiting for extraordinary or holding out for extraordinary, or your soulmate, as I prefer to call it, it just takes time, and I guarantee you that time spent looking is well worth it. And Brandy, hey Brandy, thanks for joining in. Who wants the majority? I don't. There you go. See, that's exactly right. And Teresa asks, do you think men find it a selfish thing with wanting the best, not material things, but just to be loved and give love? I just want to know what men think. Do they settle? Everyone settles, Teresa. And I think guys are as likely, maybe more likely. I know I settled in my first marriage, and it was a learning experience in more ways than one. And but I think men are are very quick to settle. If you watch guys that are widowed or lose their wives, they're very quick to jump into another relationship. They're not taking time to heal. The guys that get a lot of the guys that get divorced end up in another marriage, typically within a year or so. And it makes you wonder if they had something going on the side. Guys in general, we don't want to be alone. We're not designed to be alone. We want that companionship. And unfortunately, a lot of guys haven't figured out how to make that work, because you'll see a guy get into a second, third, fourth marriage, and by that time they're fed up with it. But it's because of the choices they've made. They've wanted the companionship and not necessarily the compatibility. And it goes back to what I was talking about, all the moving parts, all the moving components. You have to be healthy, emotionally healthy to begin with. Your partner has to be emotionally healthy. You both need to be crystal clear about what it is you want in your next relationship. You have to be able to develop an intellectual, a spiritual, an emotional, and a physical connection. And then there's the love languages. What love languages do you speak? What are your primary love languages? In addition to my book, Dating Backward, The 5 Love Languages is a great book to read. And I truly believe you can have a much stronger relationship if you speak similar love languages. It doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean that you can't learn and speak the other languages. It just means that you speak your natural love languages more fluently. And when you speak those, when you're both speaking the same language and you're both speaking it fluently, you just develop such a much deeper connection with each other. Communication goes much deeper. Communication becomes much easier. Doesn't mean that every conversation is going to be easy or going to be fun, for that matter, but it makes it easier. And it's just like sliding on that old shoe they just slide on so easily, and you just don't want to get rid of them. I mean, you can have holes and they can be raggedy looking, but they just feel good. Let's see. Brandy says, here's what I know. It's worth the wait. Do not settle. Amen. And Addie adds, it was interesting how each girl's relationship was different from another's. Most of their marriages were good and worked for them, but not all were conventional. Interesting. When you say not all were conventional, Addie, what define that for me or for us? Were they living together, I'm assuming, or maybe they were open relationships, when you say non-conventional, or maybe they were gay marriages. I don't know. That all falls part of the she says their husbands are gone a lot. Yeah, and that that when one person is out of the house a lot, that really puts a huge strain on the marriage. And she also adds, one was an open relationship. That's interesting. I will bet dollars to donuts that within a period of time, that relationship will end, because someone will get upset and someone will feel left out. I've never really seen those an open relationship work. because somebody gets jealous, and that's I don't know about any of you, but I'm not into sharing. So it's just that simple. So there's it's we just have to. Addie says yes. I can't see open ones working out in the long term, and for the most part they don't. And I have to go back and dig up the statistics, but seems to me that they don't last much more than 8 to 10 years on average. Teresa says, "I'm glad you said that. I didn't know what that was. An open relationship means that you're supposedly in a committed relationship, but it's not monogamous. You can go out and date other people, and I just don't. Somebody's going to get upset. Somebody's going to get jealous. It's all fun and games for a while, and then somebody wants to get serious, and you've got a partner that's not there, and that brings up having a partner that travels a lot, or and gosh, I look at my daughter and son-in-law. My son-in-law used to be in the Army, and he was deployed 3 times, and that is a huge stress on the family at home. The mom or the wife is supposed to take care of the household, the bills, the kids, and all of the problems that it takes. In a marriage or in a relationship, it takes 2 people to work through things, but the one spouse, and both men and women get deployed, so one spouse is gone, and it's just brutally difficult for the spouse that's taking care of the home. Hattie says it's too strange. To each their own, I guess. Yeah, it is. I don't understand it, and but again, you're right. To each their own, and to me that, and I don't know them, but to me that shows, and I'm speaking generally now, that shows a level of emotional immaturity, that they're unable to commit to each other. Sorry, Teresa, I gotta share this. We were military, and I loved when he was gone. I understand that because he was abusive, and that made your life a lot easier. And but in a loving, healthy relationship, it should be the other way around. You should be missing him and wanting him there. And yeah, I know it. And when he was gone, yeah, the house was a lot more peaceful. So it just takes time to develop, to peel back the layers. After you've left a relationship, or a marriage, a long-term marriage. I was with my ex for 25 years. We lived together for 8 and married for 17. And it took time for me to peel back the layers. It takes time that you learn. I had to learn my sense of humor again. I had to discover who I was. I had to rediscover my voice, because there were certain subjects we couldn't talk about without creating an argument or hurt feelings or emotions that weren't healthy in the relationship. So we all tend to morph. We all tend to bury some of those parts of us, and it takes time for that stuff to bubble up and find out who we are. It takes time to find out what our triggers are. Somebody says something now, And there are still a couple of times that I will get triggered with negative emotions and negative feelings and negative comments. And I recognize that, and I have to step back and say, "Whoa, what's going on here? Why am I reacting this way?" And it takes time to work through those things. Teresa says, "We were married 32 years. You can forgive. Hurt takes longer, but you do heal by the grace of God." Absolutely. And that's something that I think is so important, is the spiritual connection, that you be on the same page. I'm Christian. I believe that a Christian marriage is the strongest. But if you're not Christian, that's okay. If that, whatever works for you. If you're Jewish, be with another Jew. If you're Hindi, be with another Hindi. Hindi. I think that's correct. Muslim, be with another Muslim. But it's important to be, as they say, equally yoked. Because I've seen too many relationships come apart, and in writing my book, I interviewed a lot of people, and one of the biggest complaints, especially from women, was that they wanted to go to church, but their boyfriends or their husbands didn't. And when you get to that point, you want to be able to share your spiritual beliefs with your partner. And guys, for those of you that are on here, make sure you're honest with the ladies. If you're not a churchgoer, don't say you are and then disappoint them later on. Just be who you are, and face the music. If it's not a great fit now, it's only going to get worse later on. There's one gal that I interviewed, and she was telling me, "Oh yeah, he started going to church with me." And said, "Yeah, I love going to church," and they moved in together, and pretty soon, "Yeah, I've got things to do this Sunday. I'll go with you next Sunday." And then, then pretty soon he wasn't going to church at all. And he actually drew her out of church, and in essence stopped her from going. And that's not a healthy relationship. So that's why it's important to develop great communication early on, and understand that as you're dating, as you're exploring the single world, as you're talking to people, don't be afraid of sharing your thoughts and ideas and feelings. And if somebody attacks you for it, just say, "Yeah, okay, well, I disagree, and we're just not a good fit." And recognize that when it's not a good fit, that it's not a good fit. Don't try to form and to mold it into something that it's not. And ladies, we've talked about this a couple of times. It's so easy, and you guys guys do it too, but ladies, you do it most often, that you give 110% to a relationship, and even though it's not the best relationship, not the right, totally right for you, you just never want to let go until you've pronounced it dead for the 5th time. And I'm not, ladies, I'm not picking on you. It's just an observation. It's something that is inherent to the female of the species, that you want to make sure that you've given it every effort to satisfy your internal desire to give it your best. And you end up wasting you end up wasting a lot of time and effort and emotional energy in relationships that are ultimately not going to go anywhere. And if you take that energy and funnel it into recognizing the red flags or the problems, or just the fact there may not even be any huge red flags. It's just that it's all of the things, all of the moving parts. They may not have everything you're looking for on your must-have list. There may be a communication issue, and it could be it could be an emotional issue. It could be that you're just so far away on love languages that it becomes a problem. And Addie says true, and that she's guilty of doing that. And that's okay, Addie. Just recognize it and understand that you don't want to. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you shouldn't want to keep doing that. The ideal situation is, if you're feeling that it's not the right relationship, there's a reason that you're feeling that. And it's best to move on and say, yeah, it just wasn't working, rather than trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You can't change somebody. You can't mold them to be the person that you want them to be. A lot of times we see so much potential in someone that we say that I can see he's the one. But if he's not there mentally, if he's not on the same page, if he doesn't want the same things that you want, there's no point. Let's get this here. Teresa says, is that because we don't know how to give up, or don't want to admit that it is over, or we don't want to hurt the other person? Teresa, that's a great question. That's a combination of all those things. I've seen that for the most part, women don't want to give up on a relationship, and I think it's more innate to your gosh, what's the word? I'm having a brain fart right now. Sorry. It's innate to how you deal with relationships, and you're the nurturer. Women are the nurturers, the caretakers, and look to taking care of the relationship, and you tend to at least in the dating phase, overdo it, and I that's not really that's really not how I want to put it, but it's you go the extra mile to make it work. And in doing so, especially if the guy is not putting in as much effort, he's got all the power, because you're the one putting in all the effort, and he's just kind of sitting back and watching you make all this effort, and he doesn't have to do much. So there has to come a point in time where you recognize, and hopefully sooner rather than later, that, yeah, this isn't the right relationship. It doesn't make him a bad guy. It doesn't make you a bad woman. It doesn't make it's just not the right relationship. It's not the right fit. I get caught up here on some comments. Addie says, nope, that's why I'm working on just loving myself and my life these days. I'm not getting any younger. Yeah, well, none of us are. But it's and it's so important you're done wasting time. Absolutely. And one more personally for me, Teresa, it was because I didn't want to be a failure. There you go. See, and it's that is a huge issue with not wanting to fail. Teresa says, and I'm going to get one. Susan, I see yours. I'm going to get to yours in a second. Teresa says, I don't like hurting anyone, so it is hard for me to make others feel bad. I still, even if it's over, want to be friends and make sure all is well. Yeah, Teresa, that's not always possible. Number one, who controls your feelings? And anybody can answer this. Who controls your feelings? I know for me, I control my feelings. I'm the only one in control of those. And I am the only one in control of my reactions. We had this conversation that we don't truly control our feelings because they just pop up. But there you go, Teresa. You control your feelings. You control your reactions to those feelings. And so you are the one that has to control your response. So if you're in control of your feelings, then he must be in control of his feelings. So you're allowing what you assume others are going to feel to control how you act. And Susan says, "Come on now, I just divorced husband 3. Life goes on, and it gets better, much better." Well, that's hopefully hopefully it does get better, and hopefully I don't know, Susan, if you're looking for to get married again, but yeah, it does get better. Hopefully that life does get better as you learn lessons, as you learn from your experiences, and again, oh, hey, Rose, how are you doing? I'm glad to see you're here. So there's so many, and don't misunderstand me, Susan. I'm not saying that gosh, I've got so many things going on in my head right now. It's like ping pong balls bouncing on, boom, 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 boom. It's as long as you're learning from those experiences. But I think that we all should be looking for that last first kiss. That, at least that's my philosophy. And that last first kiss is the one you're going to get from that person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And Susan says, "No more husbands, but thanks to you, I know what to look for now." There you go. And never say never. I think when you go in focused, I think when you know exactly what you want, and you're emotionally healthy, you're most emotionally available, it's much easier to make a commitment to someone. And I think that at least for me, I never write off the possibility of another marriage. Addie says, "I've learned my feelings are more important than the others. If it's not right for me, it's not right. It may be selfish, but it is what it is for me these days." I was like you, Teresa, for a long time, always not wanting to be the bad guy. Well, and sometimes you just have to be. And I don't want to call it Hey, Betty, thanks for joining in. I don't want to look at it as you being the bad guy. I look at it as you being the adult. That's, sometimes we just have to step up and have that adult conversation with somebody and say, nope, this just isn't working for me. And and here's one of the benefits of doing it sooner rather than later is when you recognize it early on that the relationship you're working on isn't going to work or isn't the right relationship for you. It's so much easier to walk away after a month, 2 months, 3 months, rather than a year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years in some cases of people that I've talked to. It becomes much more difficult because not only do you have so many emotions invested and so much time invested, when you walk away from a relationship after a year, 2 years, 3 years, invariably you're going to say, oh man, I can't believe I wasted a year or 5 years in this relationship. I should have left when, in the first couple of months when I saw this and when I recognized this wasn't going to be good. But, we get comfortable. We get complacent, and it's easier to stay in something that's okay, because then you've got company, you've got somebody to do things with. Even if it's not great, it's like, yeah, okay, well, I'll stick around. And again, it becomes comfortable, like that old worn out shoe. And sometimes, ladies, as well as I do, sometimes you got to toss those old shoes out. Because even though they're comfortable, they're not working for you anymore. Let's see. And I'm glad you're putting your feelings first. And that's what you have to do. And like I said, that's where the adult conversation comes in. Because a lot of times we don't want to be the adults. Adulting can be not fun. Teresa says, I'm learning that I need to put me first. I can love me and I don't have to accept crap. Exactly. And be run over and still show love. Absolutely. You do have to take care of yourself and think of yourself first when it comes to relationships. Now, I'm not talking about, ignoring all of their family members. Yeah, you got to take care of the kids, but you have to do things for yourself. You have to be emotionally healthy and take care of you. And until you do that, you're going to run into problems. And it goes back to a couple of the comments I had on Facebook today that you could tell that there was hurt there. You could tell that there was animosity or just some baggage that they were carrying around with them that they haven't let go. And Teresa, you had mentioned earlier that you want to remain friends, and you can't always do that. You can't always remain friends with somebody that you break up with. It's just not realistic in many cases, especially if they were abusive. And don't, to heck with their opinions about or their feelings. You have to do what's right for you. You have to make the decisions that are right for you. If it's not a good decision for them or it doesn't feel right to them, that's okay. And that may indicate more of a one-sided relationship. Where one or the other is doing all the giving and the others not. You've got to, when you get to a one-sided relationship, if you're doing all the giving and he's doing nothing, or she's doing nothing, depending on the which way we're looking here, that's a one-sided relationship. That's not healthy. That's not good. That should be a flag that says, "Yep, I'm out." that's time to move on. Teresa says, I have 8 kids, so I know how not to be selfish. And if we serve God and show His love, you can't be selfish because knowing His love is the best. Yes, it is. But you also have to be selfish with your time and your emotions and your feelings. That's not something that I recommend that you just dive in and give that love and energy to just anyone that comes along. Make sure he's the right one. Make sure that they are deserving. And that can be so hard. We get lonely. We get tired of being alone, and it's just we want somebody there. But it becomes so easy to settle, and when you settle, that's when the problems start. So let's just step back, and when you find yourself in that position, Addie, I know you're doing a great job of it. Susan, you're doing a great job. Teresa, I'm proud of you for because over the last year and a half or so that we've talked, I've seen great growth in you. You guys keep doing the right things. And it's not always fun. It's not always easy, but it's one of those things that and I know that we had a couple of comments last week about the Hallmark ending. That would be great to have, but the Hallmark, what you see in Hallmark, that's just the end of the movie. Then, as one of the guys wrote to me afterwards, that's when the real work starts. Is after the Hallmark ending. So every relationship is going to take work. Don't fool yourself. But when you're with the right person, that load becomes much easier. It becomes much easier to work on tough issues because your partner's got your back. They're there for the long haul. So anyway, I hope I hope that helps some of you tonight. I just think that I've had so many comments in the last 6 months about that come from a negative attitude or carrying negativity with them. That it's so important that we get our heads on right, in the dating world. It's because we want that extraordinary relationship. We have to think about becoming extraordinary ourselves. So, hopefully these Monday Masteries are helping you work in that direction. Again, take Susan's testimony and say, in her reading my book Dating Backward, if you haven't read it, get a copy of it. If these Monday Masteries are working for you or helpful, and share them with hit that share button and let your other single friends know about it and see it, and let's help grow this audience a little bit and move forward. So anyway, I hope you all got something out of this today. I hope you have a great and blessed week. I love you guys. I thank you for all your comments and participation, and it's always fun to see how the conversations go. I start out with an idea, and it's always fun to see how the conversation snakes off into various rabbit holes. So anyway, Jacqueline, thanks for joining in. We'll catch this here real quick. This is happiness comes from within. You can never find it in someone else. If you're looking for someone else, it will not last. Just my thoughts. And you're absolutely right, Jacqueline. You have to be happy with yourself, and that what you find is that happiness does come from within. But when you find another person that will enhance your life, it just makes your happiness that much better. It doesn't mean that no, you're right. But for me, you have to be happy with yourself, and then you will attract happiness to complete your life. Absolutely. And that's exactly right, Jacqueline. When you're happy with yourself and you find that extraordinary partner, it's going to it just enhances your again, it enhances your life. So anyway, thank you for that, Jacqueline. Thanks for joining in. I hope you all have a great and blessed week. I'll see you next week for another edition of Monday Mastery. Click that share button and let's get this word out to all the other singles. Oh, yeah, Jacqueline, no problem. I always love your comments. You know, you're always spot on. And so anyway, share this with your friends and let's grow this audience a little bit. And I will see you next week, next Monday. I will be in Ironwood, Michigan, my northern home for the summer, and we'll rock and roll from there. Have a great and blessed week, everyone. I love you guys, and if you have any questions in the meantime, shoot me a message, and we'll see what we can do to help.